I'm going for the Tom Scott look. Anyway, yeah, we thought we couldn't mod FSR2 into games because it'd need more data from the game engine, but as it turns out, we can just nick that info from where DLSS2 would normally get it, and basically swap FSR for DLSS. And it works. But how? And should you use it? Firstly, let's just look at some FPS numbers, because even though the visuals are impressive and more will come, there's no point to using any of this if these numbers aren't better than native. And they are, but there's a performance canyon in between the two generations of FSR. Could that be because of a base render resolution change? Is that how AMD's getting better performance here? No. Quality uses 1.5 times the res, balanced uses 1.7 times, performance is 2 times, ultra performance is 3 times, according to the GPU Open blog post for FSR 1.0 and 2.0, and also the mod creator confirms this for the Cyberpunk mod for FSR 2.0. So what's all of this to do with then? Well, FSR 2.0 is the same kind of upscaler as DLSS 2, by which I mean temporal, not AI. There's nothing to do with AI here, unlike DLSS. So basically this kind of upscaler can take info from previous frames and use it to build the image for the current frame you're seeing. That gets rid of the kind of artifacting that we saw a lot in FSR 1.0, where details would kind of shimmer and flicker because at one point FSR thinks it's on this side of a pixel, and then on another it thinks it's the other side of a pixel, and it doesn't know that in the past it was on one side, so it just flickers between them and it looks really bad. That should be solved now, mostly. And I think that it's this temporal element that lets DLSS, and now FSR, do this kind of magic. This video on screen from 2Clicks Philip on YouTube, I'll have the link in the description, is Death Stranding being rendered at 240p and then being upscaled. I think we'd both agree that it doesn't look good, but it looks way better than 240p has any right to look. And with my footage, I'm also rendering at just 240p, so that's 720p monitor res and ultra performance FSR2. Look at my mouse cursor. I left my mouse cursor on the screen. I couldn't see it, but it was being recorded. Oh, and that means all of the rest of the footage I recorded before this are also going to have the mouse cursor. The rest of the footage I show you in this section won't have the mouse cursor, but just forgive it for a second. Look at the detail on Jackie's face. And then look at these two images. One is FSR 1 Ultra Performance, and one is FSR 2 Ultra Performance. Both of these look better than native, but the fact that all of the detail and the image on the right is just entirely faked, just going from one generation of FSR to the other, it's really impressive. Like, yeah, it's shimmery and it's smudgy, but in editing now I'm going to limit you to the amount of pixels that this was being rendered at so you can have some perspective about this, and that's all being done without any specialized hardware in NVIDIA. But that means, back to why I even started this paragraph, that FSR2 does have a bigger performance impact than 1.0, which is why FSR1 is remaining the catch-all option that just works with everything, no hassle. And speaking of working with everything, no hassle, all the testing you've seen so far, along with the future 4K gaming bits that's coming later in the video, all of it's been done under Linux with no hassle. It just works. FSR2 will probably never make it into something like Magpie, which was the previous topic of my upscaling video that you can find up there if you'd like. I guess never say never, but I don't see how it would. It probably won't. However, the mod developer, Potato of Doom, says that it should work eventually in most DLSS 2 games, as evidenced by the number of other mods based on this one that have popped up really soon after launch. Like in Dying Light, Red Dead 2, No Man's Sky was there, which means I'm definitely going to try it in VR, and the quality's getting DLSS good. Actually, No Man's Sky just disappeared. I swear it was there on July the 10th when I looked. It's still in my browser history, but if I click on that link now, it's gone, so I won't be trying it in VR. As quoted by Potato of Doom, this is just a concept to see if such a mod is even possible. Expect bugs. And the only actual problems I had were ghosting behind fast cars, not in a massive way, and it's not even too distracting. And that is the kind of issue that DLSS used to have, and has gotten much better over time, which tells me that AMD can probably do the same. The performance, though worse than FSR1, is still better than native, and it's all open source, which is what allows mods like this to be made. Plus, because DLSS 2 is getting adopted into lots of games, AMD says the timeline for actually putting FSR2 into a game that already supports DLSS 2 officially is really fast. But did you honestly think I was going to do a whole video about upscaling without showing you its biggest strength? 4K gaming? Obviously not. Even if the scaling is a bit funny in Linux. You know what, Linux has no HDR support anyway, so if we're going to be on a 4K HDR TV, we may as well actually be in an OS where we can use it. Are we at 60 Hz? The problem with getting a high refresh rate monitor is that everything looks bad. Okay, no, we were at 30, in all fairness. That looks nicer. Okay. And let's turn on HDR, actually. Boom. Oh, boom. Boom. No? We don't... I've turned on HDR before. Yeah. So turn it on. I press tab and space. Well, HDR is broken. Whatever. Oh. Well, I think we might have to go back to Linux. We may as well go back to Linux where everything just works. Something is going really wrong. Okay, so now we're actually where we should have been at the start of me going downstairs. There we go, 4K. Go. There we go. I'm just going to use the settings I actually play at 1080p. So most things are high, but I've heard that these impact performance a lot. So I've turned those down, and we'll have DLSS, well, FSR 2 off right now, so we can just see how things are going. So I started a new game last night so that we would kind of be somewhere into this, because I've got a save on Windows and I didn't want to back things up. Yep, my graphics card can definitely not run 4K Ultra. This looks excellent, and actually we're not fully Ultra. Remember, I turned cascaded shadows down a bit. Let's see if we can help. What does auto do? So I don't get to know what setting it's picking. We just automatic. What does it do? It makes performance worse. Okay. I think I know what happened. I think that at 4K with max texture quality and FSR 2.0 at its higher settings, 8 gigs of VRAM just isn't enough. At least I think that's what's happening. And that also explains why lower resolutions work okay. I might be wrong, so don't take that as 100%, but when you hear me talking later about just weird performance issues that I can't explain, I think it's VRAM. Let's not do that. Let's set it all the way to ultra performance, just so I can see if... Okay. Well, I mean, at ultra performance we're getting... Ultra performance in motion at 4K from this distance actually looks... Oh no, it's a bit fuzzy. Okay, whatever. Yeah, I can see rain. Rain is kind of awkwardly coming down. It seems like it's kind of fading and popping into existence. So I just realized I remember this bit. I'm gonna have to actually play soon. So I don't expect in my own benchmarking at 1080p. There was almost no performance difference after I got too balanced, and that's gonna be even worse here, because we're gonna be way more CPU bottlenecked. You'll see my CPU usage is really high even though we're doing nothing, because I'm encoding using my CPU, because my GPU's encoder doesn't want to do this. So performance is basically the same. It's just now it actually works. And I died. Does it? The dog does actually work as a mousepad, but the performance has gone terrible. Why would that be? Okay, quality. When I set it to auto, it ran really bad. So if I set it to balance, it's okay. Oh, the performance isn't great. That was a bit less than 40 FPS. But is quality worse? Quality is much worse than just running it native. I don't think at 4K I can reasonably benchmark performance because something weird is going on. See if we can get anything resembling useful. Oh.
Got you, asshole! V, aim for the driver! Chingalo!
Well, there we go.
Scratched your baby up pretty bad. Sorry, V.
I am
It's okay.
intrigued.
They can
Oh,
wait.
my CPU is
This folks
maxed
ain't
out.
getting home.
Let's turn down the recording settings. So the recording quality should be a lot worse now. I am actually kind of surprised at this distance by how alright ultra performance looks. But I would rather, like, let's try quality now. That's more in line with what I would expect. We're getting like 30 FPS.
Damn, are we ever lucky we ran into you?
Really?
And then how does native look? There's no way this should be 8 FPS, down from 1080p's above 60. But the visual quality should be alright. So we've seen native now. Quality... I don't see a difference at all, actually. Now let's immediately switch to ultra performance, because maybe my eyes are just bad. No, that looks soft. But it's not... It's not too bad at this distance. So let's try balanced.
I'm loyal, stable in my affections.
Hmm.
And unassuming. You get it.
Okay. And then is performance appreciably... Performance looks worse. Okay. So I think if I had a 4K display and things were working normally, just in terms of like how good things look regardless of performance impact, because there's no point going any higher if you can't really tell the difference. At 4K I would probably do balanced. So we're on performance now. Things in the distance look worse. That tree looks kind of fuzzy, and the rain doesn't... It doesn't look like it's falling. It looks like it's kind of fading, kind of in and out of existence. It's hard to explain. Things far away don't look too great, but like Jackie here, I can't tell the difference between that at 4K at this distance. But if I go to balanced, then actually this does look a little sharper. But things in the distance also look much nicer. So I think balanced is the way to go for 4K, but let's switch from FSR 2 balanced to FSR 1 balanced. The performance is worse, but that's just because I'm not honestly sure why. I think, I hope it comes across in the video, there's a lot of kind of shimmering... I wouldn't call it the same as normal shimmering, but you can see at the bottom of the windshield, there's kind of like fizzing. So this is less useful than I thought it was going to be, just because of the kind of awkward way that it's performing right now at 4K, and the fact that I'm playing the game basically one-handed. But what we can see, even if the performance differences aren't particularly helpful, is that the actual visual quality is quite a big improvement, which is something we already knew from 1080p. So basically going through all of the effort of bringing my computer down here was pointless. Apologies for how suboptimal that last section was, but because of the massive distance between me and the only 55-inch TV, the quality differences were really minor, and actually my 1080p 24-inch monitor actually takes up more of my field of view than that TV did, so 4K native and quality and balanced actually looked noticeably very sharp. but performance and even ultra performance didn't look too much worse than how I'm used to details looking on my monitor at 1080p. So I'm really disappointed that we couldn't get No Man's Sky working and that mod was fake or a virus. I'm not sure, it's just gone off Nexus Mods, and I couldn't get No Man's Sky to work with the Cyberpunk version of the mod, so we're just going to have to leave VR for now. But I've seen enough of this technology to be really impressed. AMD is just another big company that wants your money. Don't get attached to brands. But thanks, AMD, for releasing something that's, in my experience, very similar to DLSS, although they do have some more work to do with ghosting on fast-moving objects, but something that's very similar to DLSS and doesn't need any special hardware, and it's all open source, and modders are being able to put it into games, unlike DLSS. So, bye. And subscribe if you'd like to. I keep forgetting.